So back in April, we tried to address the challenge of what will health technology look like in 10 years' time. So very much the theme of today, obviously. And we decided to take a bit of a different approach. So rather than form a committee and take 6 months to define it, we did it in 4 weeks. Pretty collaborative process. So five half-day workshops and the use of an online collaboration platform called Lumio, who was actually a Wellington-based company. And we realised a couple of things through the process. So firstly, we realised that the vision had to be a living vision. So defining a vision now and then publishing it in a document, never to be reviewed again, probably wasn't really going to cut it in this new world. And secondly, as we developed the vision, what became very apparent is the technology tended to disappear as you went through the conversation. So the technology itself wasn't the point. The point was how the technology actually enabled New Zealanders to live well, stay well, get well. So the technology vision, 10 years out, is that technology is transforming the way that New Zealanders live well, stay well, get well, and very much anchored around the New Zealand health strategy. And as Anne-Marie has said, if you haven't read it, why not? So we defined a number of themes, and in the interest of time and Scott's bell, I won't go through all of them, but I'll run through a few of them just to give an illustration of what these themes are and what we think they mean 10 years out. It's important when we think about health technology that we think about value for New Zealand. And we think about how do we prioritise our scarce resources, whether it's money, whether it's workforce capability. How do we prioritise that, have flexibility around funding, and incentivise different delivery models and smart use of technology? It's fair to say that today we don't. And to take Bruce's lead, if we look 10 years back, our models are really the same as they are today. So we don't have different delivery models and aligned funding and incentives to enable those models to change. And we think that's pretty important. But just as important in terms of value for New Zealand is to make sure we don't create inequities through the technology. So we know there are inequities in terms of health outcomes, inequities in terms of access to service. But today, and I think moving into the future, one of the risks is that the technology actually creates new inequities in terms of connectivity, in terms of access to the technology, the virtual services that we deliver. So I've got a little example of this. So one is around data for social investment. So how can we join data together in an anonymised form to understand the interplay of social circumstance with health outcomes? How can we target the technologies and the services to address some of the inequities that are there? The second way that we can target inequities around technology is to make the technology available to people in a way that doesn't really require them to significantly change the way they live their lives today. Play video.
This is Pop-In, a video chat system that works using any existing flat-screen television. Is controlled with that TV's original remote and can be installed in just a few minutes wherever there is cell phone coverage. Perfect for anyone who is housebound or finds working with modern technology such as laptops, tablets and smartphones a challenge. Pop-In's simplicity and portable design combined with advanced features such as medication alerts make it an ideal channel for providing care closer to home. Pop-In makes meaningful connections simple.
So I think that's a good example, and Pop-In's a New Zealand company. A good example of how technology doesn't need to be shiny and new and disruptive. Actually, technology can simply enable consumers in their home to interact more with the health system and to enable them to stay well, not just get well. So another theme that came through the health technology vision work was this concept of life-centered. So how do we empower people to flourish in their lives rather than health being something that people interact with when they're sick? How do we integrate the multiple sources of information. And this isn't just information that's generated by traditional health services, but information from natural health services, from social services, and more from the consumer themselves. And how do we use that information to then support functional medicine? Again, providing what individuals need within the context of their lives. But if we think about technology empowering people to live in their lives, I've got a little example here, which unfortunately isn't a New Zealand example, but I think it's still pretty cool.
Okay, right, I'm going to try and replicate this here. We're off to a great start. I tend to kind of just avoid doing sketching and writing now because it's not really worth it if you get something like that. Anything you could do that would just make my hand do what I want it to do and to be able to sign my name would be an incredible thing.
How do we even just begin to help her overcome this particular symptom of her tremors and helping her be able to regain her writing ability, her drawing ability? So what I'm doing is I'm making a very rough prototype, and what this board does is I can connect into it through these wires, these tiny coin cell motors. So these motors will vibrate. I personally think that what this is doing is it's short-circuiting whatever feedback loop there is between the brain and the hand that's causing the tremors. So the idea is if you are distracted by the vibration, are you able to write better? I don't know. What? I don't know.
It's affecting something. I don't quite know what's happening.
I'm on to something, right? I'm on to something.
Woo! Woo! Jesus Christ. Oh my God. It makes me forget that I have a tremor. I haven't drawn one of them for a long time. I've actually just written my name for like the first time in ages.
I can't believe it.
Mum, it's called the Emma.
Oh, brilliant.
It's got my name on it. Right, here we go.
So that's existing technology being used centred around someone's life. Looking at 10 years out, we don't know what this technology will be used for. But if we can use it in situations like that, then it will have a huge impact on the well-being of New Zealanders. But underpinning a lot of this technology 10 years out is all about information that's accessible, information that's trusted, particularly in response to the consumerisation of technology and information generation. I think the concept of digital trust is really important here. So how do we have information that's secure, is reliable, is safe, and is convenient, so is available in a form that is actually useful to people, rather than simply having more and more information adding to the noise and becoming even more complex and more confusing. So we need policies, processes, standards, all of the really dull stuff that we do at the ministry. But we also need to connect people. So connection in terms of location, time, device, agnostic connections. There are a couple of ways that we are looking to do this. So firstly, many of you will have heard of the work being done by the team currently on the electronic health record business case. Currently at the end of indicative business case stage and expecting that to go through for approval to move through to detailed business case development. I think the interesting thing about this process is that what this project is aiming to do is to create an information platform that allows health information that exists today within the health system to make that information accessible in a form that can be used, and not just used by the health system, but used by industry, used by consumers ultimately, and then to grow over time into a platform that can incorporate sources of data that don't even exist today. To try to do that as a single project would be pretty difficult, rather foolish. So we have to start small. So we're starting with a core set of data elements, or at least that's the proposal. But I think this concept of information platforms and information use and reuse is really important. Similarly, and I'll put in a plug for interoperability. I think commitment to interoperability for New Zealand is really critical in being able to enable this technology future. So there are 5 principles. This is up on the ministry site. I encourage you to have a look and sign up to these. These are the principles that I believe we need to adhere to consistently if we're really going to provide information in a way that consumers can trust and that is usable to those that need it. Also on the ministry site is a link to the Vision for Interoperability document that NZ-HIT published late last year. So I encourage you to have a look at both of those. And if we get it wrong, then this happens. So we all know about the ransomware. Apparently there's a good conference on this stuff in March next year, I think. But we need to get this right. This is not a risk that is going to diminish or go away. It's a risk that's going to increase. So if we focus on the shiny new technology and we don't focus on the robustness and the resilience of our information governance, management, security, policy and process, then the impact is going to be serious. Once you lose trust in the robustness of the system, it will be very difficult to get it back. So the theme of today, closer to me, I'll just talk about another example here. Again, unfortunately not a New Zealand one, but closer to me was really coined from a health technology point of view of closer to home's fine, but actually I don't want services at home. I want them on my phone. I want them at my work. I want to go and get service delivery when I'm in the shopping mall because that's what's most convenient to me. So how does technology enable that to occur? Technology can remove isolation by keeping communities connected, but one of the observations made through our process is it can also create isolation. So individuals that are very connected on social media and online potentially are becoming disconnected from their local communities. So we need to think about how this stuff works. I'll play video.
Silverline provides a unique collection of services that help older adults be more connected with the world around them. Our Silverline sensors and home gateway ensure that older adults can live fully and safely. They go hand in hand with our Silverline and companion applications, specifically designed to be intuitive and fun to use. Silverline is designed to meet the needs of family members and caregivers by helping them stay in touch with older adults at the click of a button. Silverline helps older adults with useful reminders and recordings. Through the Silverline portal, companions have an overview of an older adult's daily living. The portal displays real-time data analytics and has predictive smart services. Thanks to Silverline's emergency functions, family can always be there to help, even from a distance. As helpful for older adults as for family and caregivers, let Silverline help you live more safe, happy, and connected lives.
So here's an example of just a range of technologies, and they all exist today, and there are multiple companies that do that sort of stuff. But I think the interesting convergence of sensors and AI and connecting family and health services is really interesting. So lastly, before Scott rings the bell, so sustained change and innovation is a major theme that came through our health technology vision work as well. Technology is easy. The human change is the hard bit. And when we think about technology change, we need to think about not just the technology, but how it impacts service models. How do we get the right regulation and policy around the use of the technology? How do we get the workforce enablers? How do we align the funding incentives? And how do we think about business models? So industry needs to be able to have a sustainable business out of the technology. So how do we get that right? And Anne-Marie mentioned right at the beginning, ThoughtWired. So I'll close with a very quick video on ThoughtWired, which again, New Zealand company doing some pretty leading stuff.
Thousands of New Zealanders and over 6 million people worldwide cannot communicate because of severe physical disabilities. At ThoughtWired, we're passionate about giving them a voice.
We're focused on reliable communication for people with profound physical disabilities. Many of these people are trapped inside their own bodies. At best, frustrated beyond belief. At worst, completely locked in and unable to let their loved ones know what they need and how they feel, or that they even have needs and feelings at all. But we're ready to change that. That's why we developed Nous. Nous is software that enables you to control computers using your mind. Put on one of our headbands and your brain activity will be sent through to a computer or mobile device. Nous then interprets that activity and turns it into useful functions. What kinds of functions? Anything you can use a computer for. Email, speech, home automation, motorized wheelchairs, bionic limbs, an army of thought control robots to take over the world. On the back of breakthrough research and development, Nous has gone from proof of concept to one step away from market ready.
And a little more today. This was in the media not so long ago, but Auckland DHB using VR around reducing childhood anxiety. So there's lots of technologies out there being used now. There's lots of new technologies coming, like the thought-controlled offering from ThoughtWired. And the health technology vision themes, we will be getting these out there shortly. But there are 9 themes, and as I said, technology seems to disappear with these. It's really about how the technology is used, what all of these mean from the perspective of industry developing solutions, health service delivery agencies delivering services in new and different ways, and ultimately about New Zealanders and the way that they want to live their lives and have health services as part of them.